Welcome back to my series, Penguin of the Month, where I teach beginning, mixing, and watercolor techniques. This is our July penguin. I know it's only the end of May, but we've got to get moving so we get them all done by the end of October. So this is our July penguin. I loved the geometric vibe of this photo, so I cropped it, and that's what we're doing today for July. Let me show you what we've done so far. We did this one last month for June, actually last week for June, May, April. This one's longer because it's got more detail and more penguins to paint. March, baby penguins are born. February and January. My materials today are a Fabriano Artistico 100% cotton 140-pound block of cold press paper in 5x7, 3 mixing colors by Vinci, Red Rose Deep, Arylide Yellow FGL, and Phthalo Blue. And my brushes that I used are Princeton Heritage, rounds 10, 8, and 4. I used a silver white, round 2, and an Escoda Perla, round 1. I also used a little bit of salt. I am going to start by wetting the sky and the water. I'm going to go around the penguin. We're going to be practicing some wet and wet techniques and how to make some texture on the foreground. We're going to make the background be very blurry. So I'm just going to vary the colors of blue, the values of blue, to show blurry ocean in the background. As always, you can get the outline on my Patreon channel. It's free to all members. I give you a resizable one, and I also give you the 5x7 in addition to the reference photo. So a little bit of blue there. Okay, I'm going to grab, I want this to be a little bit of a grayed down blue, and then the ocean is a darker blue. I'm going to get some of this dark. This is from last week's penguin. This is now my Penguin of the Month plate. It is dedicated to this so that I don't have any issues with different colors that I don't want in my painting. I'm going to get a little bit of pink and put it in here. I'm going to get a little bit of yellow. I'm going to get a little more red. Okay, that's pretty good. If you're not mixing, you know, a cobalt blue would look fine. Really any blue, ultramarine. I like to get the pigment on the paper and then lift some off, add some more on just to vary it. Okay, and I'm going to go over the water. Actually, I don't know why I was being careful. I want some of the sky color in the water because the water is reflecting the sky. Okay. I am going to let this dry, and then I'll do the water. And I am just going to take just a little bit of water and bring it down here. I'm going to try to do defining a shape once on this video, It's not going to work on the penguin. We didn't go over the penguin, but I'm going to try to at least do it in the background. And that just means that, okay, I'm not going to define the sky, and then when it's dry, and then paint this line again. I'm going to try my best to paint one line once. At least in the background, I know already that we're going to be painting this shape again, because I didn't let the blue go over the penguin, if that makes any sense. So I'm going to dry this, and then we'll do the water. I wanted to add a little more here and there. I'm going to make it kind of go diagonal. Go through. I'm going to take a little bit off with a damp brush. I think that's interesting looking. Okay. Now, keeping in mind that I wanted to define this shape, and this shape only once, I am going to now go ahead and do the lighter one. I'm going to wet this, and I'm going to go a little bit beyond the line into the water. And while this is sinking in, I'm going to go over the feet too. While this is being absorbed by the paper, I'm going to go ahead and make up a brown. So to do that, I'm going to make an orange. Add a little bit of the pink, a little more yellow, and then I'm going to add some of the dark. A little more. I want it to be more of a dark brown. There we go. And I'm going to, with water on my brush, I just dipped it in and now it's pretty wet. I'm going to spread this around. It's okay if it goes into the water section. It's okay if it goes up on the feet. I'm going to add a little bit of this dark here and there. I'm not going for an exact replica of the photo. I want the same colors, and I want to try to make it look like light colored rock. Add a little more brown, and I'm going to put salt on this, and that will help it look a little more rough. A few little granules. And then you have to let this dry on its own so that it can push pigment away from it. Pigment and water gets pushed away and it reveals the white paper underneath. So hopefully this will result in some pretty jaggedy, rough textures. Okay. Okay, I have this it's not old, it was 95 cents. It was really cheap, and it's very, very stiff. And it's really irregular on the tip. Now I've wiped all the salt off, and isn't that pretty? I just love that. I'm going to use the end of this to dab on some of those dark spots that we see in the photo. So I dipped it in the water and I wiped off most of the water. It's kind of damp. I'm going to just tap it into this dry paint, and I'm going to do that. I'm going to tap onto this. A little more water, I think. Just loosen that paint up a little. There we go, that's what I wanted. See that? You can kind of drag it, do a dry brush thing. I just want it to look a little bit more, less like salt, you know what I mean? I want it to have some craggy, okay, that's good enough. And now I'm going to just get some of that dark on this number 4. Twirl it around in there, and I'm going to cover up all of this, and I'm going to kind of splat it on there. Okay, cover this, get it on there too. Okay, that's good. That was easy, wasn't it? It looks pretty regular, like a regular pattern in the reference photo, And I wanted to try to mimic that. It looks very uniform, and this whole photo seems very geometric to me. And I wanted to kind of keep that vibe going here. Okay, now I'm going to wet the sky and the water again, and I'm going to do the water, which will define the shape of the sky and the shape of the rock. So we will be defining everything once. Okay. I also want to do this because I want this edge out here in the way in the background to be blurry. And one word of caution, be careful that you get everything wet again. Look at it like this to see where the dry spots are and fill those in, because when this dries and you haven't gotten everything wet, it's going to have a drying line, right? Do you see that right there? That's a drying line from when I did this. I didn't care about it because I knew I was going over this with dark blue. But since we are not going to go over the sky again, I'm going to make sure that the whole sky is wet. See if everything is glistening. Okay, now I'm going to make a darker blue, sort of a brighter, darker blue. Get some of the phthalo blue. I'm going to get a little bit of the pink and darken that up a little. Okay, that looks pretty close to the water that's in the background. I'm going to start at underneath this little guy, this little penguin's wing, flipper, whatever it is. It's a bird, so it's probably a wing. Okay, now I'm defining the edge of the rock over here, and now it's only been done once. And the reason I want to practice that is because built up pigment along edges is kind of something that bothers me. I'm constantly thinking about it, and I probably shouldn't be, but I am. And I don't like it when we get so much pigment built up from doing so many layers. So every once in a while I remember I should try to do defining an edge once. Get a little more pink in there, darken it up. I'm going to hold it up like this so that this doesn't keep moving up. I want it to move down. This one's doing pretty well because it's a little bit drier than it was on this side when I did that side. There's a little blue little window right here. I guess I didn't get everything wet in the water, which is fine. Okay, I'm going to define this edge. Okay, I'm just going to use a damp brush. Looks like I dropped some water right there. Piece of salt. Okay, now let's try that again. Actually, this is drying funny. Okay, now I'm going to use a damp brush, get all the water off of it, off the ferrule too, and just lift along here. There. Now I'm going to use my number 4 and get some of the dark. And add a little bit back there, a little bit up here. And I'm going to use a damp brush that's clean, and I'm going to bring it along, do a little bit of lifting, like over the top of those darks. It looks like the water that I put up here is coming back down in to the ocean and leaving white backgrounds. So now I'm just going to lay it flat now and let it dry. All right, now let's do the penguin's body. I really like how this background turned out. If you haven't watched any of these videos yet and you don't know how to make this color, I want you to go back to the May video and I show you exactly how to do this. I'm not going to do it in this one. I want this video to be kind of short because I've done hours-long videos on these already, and I don't want to lose your attention. It's basically pink and red and yellow to make an orange. Use a lot of pigment, make it thickly pigmented, add blue until you get a good gray. Okay, I'm going to use a number 2 silver white, and I'm going to put in all the black sections of the penguin. And now I'm going to just do a few little flicks on the edge of this shape to make it look irregular. I'm going to add a little more pigment in this little section. I don't want it to be too light. And I'm going to go above the head, right along the top. He doesn't have any, well, he's got a little bit right there. And then it gets a little thicker as we go down. And I'm going to do the wings. Okay, now this comes down like that. And this comes in here. And then all of this inside here, it doesn't have to be exact. So if you don't have your lines or you're confused, just make some of it black and some of it white. It's going to be fine. So this comes all the way down to here. It looks like my blue didn't quite go all the way around. I'm just going to make this wing a little bit longer. Look at that. Okay, and then this comes up like that. That goes down like that. And this comes in here like this. Does it look like a penguin wing? Yours will too. Okay, let's do it again over here. This little section on the top. Comes down in there. Oh man, look what I just did. Not too bad. That's not that bad. Okay, there's a little bit here. Goes down to the tip. Comes up. And then this big shape is black. Okay, there's a little bit of this goes like that. There's a white shape right here. We're using the black paint to make the white shapes, if that makes any sense to you. Okay, so this whole thing is black. There's a tiny bit of a white little streak there. Okay, and then I'm going to get some lighter gray. Just add water and get a teeny bit of gray. And I'm going to actually add a little more water to my brush and dab it off. And I'm going to add that in here because that's not totally white. And neither is this, which is why I wasn't really that concerned that I put my finger in that. I am going to actually redo the bottom. There, good as new. Now let's do the chest. I'm going to just fill in the shape and then we'll do some little flicks. Okay, tiny little flicks before it starts to dry. There are a few up here. Okay. And then this comes in right along the inside of the leg. Do some little flicks. Okay, let's do the little part. It's just barely noticeable on this side. And then there's that little black part coming down and up, and then down on this tail, going to the back. Okay, I'm going to add little flicks along the bottom here. There's a little bit in here. And then the tail behind the penguin is dark. Little flicks. And I'm just going to rinse my brush out a little. And I still have some pigment on it. It's very light. And I'm going to add this shadow in. That's giving it a little bit of depth, showing that this is going under the penguin. I hope. I'm going to add a little brown to it. A little bit of brown down here. Okay. Soften that. And I am going to wet the inside of the belly. The water hit that and it made it a little bit softer, which I like. And it's kind of hitting some of these little flicks that I did and letting it kind of come into the body. It looks more real and less like a little piece of a puzzle. I'm going to add, I think that's enough shadow in there. I'm going to do the same thing up here. I'm just going to add clean water. See how it's being released from the edges? And I think that that is just enough that I wanted to happen. I don't want to do any more to it. I'll leave it like that. Okay, so let's do the beak. It looks like it's got a little bit of brown, just like right here. I'm going to let that dry for a second, and I'm going to do the clear water trick up here too. Along the eye, I'm going to add a little bit of brown right up there. Well, that's all drying. Let's go down to the feet. There's a little bit of brown on the legs. Not a lot, but there is a little. That looks like a really fat leg, doesn't it? I am thinking that this is wrong. I think that this leg is like that. And I think this is tail. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make the tail go right there and bring that black down there. And then this is white feathers, and then this is the gray going across the leg. It's very ambiguous. You don't have to make it look like a foot. Now this is the white feathers right here. This is where the feathers stop, and then there are like C-curves. Just apply legs there. Okay, I'm going to get a smaller brush. I'm going to get this number 1 and do the eye. Get this thicker pigment right on it. And I'm just going to add this little circle, like an egg shape. Oh, it's not dry. Let me dry that. Okay, I zoomed in and you can see a little better. I have my glasses on. Okay, now I'll do the beak. We did this exact beak last month with the swimming penguin. It's looking kind of funny because my lines are too indented into the paper again. I know, and I did it really, really softly. Does that look okay? I think it looks all right. Looks fine. Whoever you give this to, and even if you scan it, the scan isn't going to pick up anything wrong with this. Plus, it's a painting, not a copy of a photo. I'm going to darken these wings a little bit here and there, so we have some dark and some medium and some light. I'm going to add a little more dark here. Just some little flicks. And then up here on the face, it's a little bit darker, like from here down to there. So I'm going to fill that in. Doing these little details is the fun part for me. I'm a little bit of a detail-oriented painter, if you haven't figured that out yet. Okay, and then the beak. And I'm going to go under the eye, right here, and up there, and then up there a little more. I want to get this beak a little bit darker. Okay. Anywhere else that's really dark, could do a little more here. And I'm going to call it good. I hope that you enjoyed our 6th penguin of the month. It was a little bit easy, which is probably a nice change from, say, was it April that had the 3 penguins and it was an hour long? I don't remember. But I really liked this one. I liked the geometric shapes and the starkness of the black and white penguin against all of the softness. So with that, I will say goodbye and thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video.